Captain Pollution. The sole fact that the character of Captain Pollution was created by bringing together the most dangerous eco-villains, namely Duke Nukem, Sly Sludge, Verminous Scum, Loot and Plunder, and of course, Dr. Blight, using the exact opposite versions of the Planeteers' rings, makes him as formidable as a devil. Well, it was towards the end of the first season when Dr. Blight discloses her latest invention, the molecular duplicator machine. This device was capable of birthing evil that was the antithesis of any object placed within it.
Behold, an evil duplicate of the rabbit.
Dr. Blight, after stealing the Planeteers' magic rings, utilizes her new machine to create 5 evil ones. So, instead of having the powers of earth, fire, wind, water, and heart, the evil rings represent the powers of deforestation, super radiation, smog, toxic, and hate. Also, Blight's team was capable of summoning the very terrifying Captain Pollution in the same manner that the Planeteers called for Captain Planet, but with their very own hashtag. The overall appearance of this character bears a striking resemblance to that of Captain Planet's, but the former's pale yellowish skin features a lot of cuts and grazes. His red hair is fashioned in a widow's peak with the devil's horns protruding from both the sides, and those glaring set of red eyes set him apart from the latter. In addition to that, his suit is more or less of the same color and style, but the chest portion is ripped in the center, with 2 cracked halves of Captain Planet's chest symbol on each side. This supervillain's first appearance in the episode titled Mission to Save Earth Part 1 has him exhibit a variety of powers and abilities. For starters, he can fly just the way Captain Planet does, but unlike him, he is absolutely immune to toxins and can actually absorb pollutants.
I'm just getting warmed up!
So much so that in some cases it's the amount of toxic chemicals and pollutants that he absorbs that determines his size and strength. From generating fiery radioactive beams with his hands, which, by the way, happens to be his main technique of attacking, destroying trees just to trap the Planeteers, producing smog to manipulating toxic chemicals, and using them to empower himself, Captain Pollution simply loathes a clean planet. And while it's true that his presence in the series was rather short, Captain Pollution appears in 2 more episodes later, A Mine is a Terrible Thing to Waste Part 1 and Part 2. It goes without saying that his character was the perfect adversary to Captain Planet, giving him a rather tough competition. It brings the audience immense joy when he does meet his deserving end, after getting tricked by Captain Planet and entering an underground magma chamber.
We're being hit!
Hoggish Greedly. No matter what you do, the character of Hoggish Greedly happens to be someone whom you just can't stop thinking about. You can hate him for his repugnant, animal-like exterior and tendencies, but most importantly, the fact that this exceptionally egotistical villain simply seeks pleasure from literally anything he can lay his hands on makes him so much more destructive, dark, and sinister than most villains combined.
Come to Oinker Isle. Hook!
Not only does his pig face get permanently stamped into your brain, but also his thin, reddish-brown mohawk, the tiny upturned nose, his fanged teeth, and those pointed ears. His appearance is synonymous with his name. He is illustrated to be dreadfully fat and is seen stuffing his face with literally any food that's available. His love for overconsumption and greed hovers over almost every facet of his actions, which is further pronounced with his messy eating habits. His sartorial sense demands an added mention. As a sign of authority abuse, his character is mostly seen donning green military fatigues, a leather webbing belt, and combat shoes. Having said that, his attire changes over different episodes, but it's his preference for the pig motif, which is seen in the form of, say, clothes, accessories, or even machinery, that has remained rather unswerving. Speaking of his personality, his character loves to pollute, and he literally lives to consume and deplete the planet's natural resources. One will always find him going after the precious gems, rare minerals, the noble forests, and endangered species. In short, anything and everything that will quench his gargantuan thirst for non-renewable resources. Greedly is extremely rich, and that usually gives him access to some rather complex pig-themed polluting gadgets. He is someone who likes to throw his weight around. He can be very mean and cruel, and is often seen trying to harm the Planeteers when given a chance. He has appeared in episodes such as A Hero for Earth, Beast of the Temple, The Dead Seas, Don't Drink the Water, and Smog Hog, while boasting his many skills such as aviation, driving, navigation, and business management. No wonder Greedley tops the list when it comes to the villains of Captain Planet. What's more is that the wild, snorting laugh of his only gets better because he has the legendary Ed Asner voicing him.
Who's there?
Your worst nightmare. I'm ignorance. I'm fear. I'm hate.
Verminous Scum. This appropriately named villain is half a man and half a rat, and irrefutably one of the most insidious villains that have been featured in the series. While not much is known about his origins or early life, according to Gaia, Verminous Scum was born and raised in toxic waste. So, it's a possibility that this eco-villain was once a normal rat that after coming in close contact with toxic material underwent radical transmutation.
The pollution scheme of the century. Bah, scumbug!
There is also a whole race of these rat-like creatures that exist, and Scum happens to be their undisputed leader. His end goal is not only to displace the human beings, but to also have his kind take control of the planet. His wicked methods mainly target the humans, particularly their health and safety. This brings us to the episode titled Mind Pollution, where this notorious character was accountable for coming up with a drug called Bliss.
Yeah, you're feeling no pain.
The episode was easily one of the most hard-hitting anti-drug chapters to have ever been showcased in any cartoon. It not only demonstrates how one of the main characters, Linka to be specific, is addicted to the drug, but also her cousin Boris gets killed in an act of overdose. The manner in which Scum revels in the devastation of mankind makes him a genuine threat in the series.
That's it, you blissed out moron.
Putting further stress on his sinister schemes, Scum has his own ways of doing things. From secretly running a restaurant which intentionally serves noxious seafood, to transforming the innocent humans into an army of half-rat slaves via his rat-rot mutation chemical, he holds no qualms about going to extreme levels. And that's not all he does. He has even attempted to rouse conflict and resentment amongst people, something that was quite noticeable when he tried to produce feelings of hatred towards Todd Andrews, the HIV-positive teenager.
Good.
It could happen to you or your loved ones. What are you going to do?
Mostly found dressed in a tattered and disheveled blue jumpsuit with a red scarf covering his face and head, Verminous Scum is certainly a villain to remember.
Never see Captain Planet again.
Dr. Blight. At the first glance, Dr. Blight is bound to come across as this attractive, blonde, toned, blue-eyed woman, one with a penchant for wearing spandex jumpsuits, a utility belt, long dark gloves, and sassy high-cut boots. But underneath the shoulder-length hair and that distinctive white streak lay the terrifyingly disfigured left side of her face. There have been times when her entire face has been on display, and trust us, it isn't a pleasant sight. She sports a heavily charred and blackened uneven cheek that's filled with revolting boils. The origin of the scar, however, was never really disclosed. Whatever may be the reason, it is bound to have inflicted on her unbearable pain and adds to her insanity. Her character seems to be ambiguous, especially when it comes down to her feelings about her facial scarring. There are episodes like The Energy Vampire and Losing Game where she actually does not give a shit about her scar on display. It is almost like she is proud of it. At the same time, there are episodes like You Bet Your Planet and Frog Day Afternoon where she feels entirely ashamed of it. Her relationship with her sidekick, an artificial intelligence computerized aerosol spray can husband, Mal, is noteworthy too.
Oh, baby.
Anything you say, my toxic bombshell.
At times, she is quite fun and flirtatious with Mal, but there are times when she is fuming with rage and behaves violently towards him.
Start searching, you hypocritical!
To be honest, her extreme fluctuations of emotions are quite the common sight when she is dealing with the other eco-villains too. Having first appeared in the episode titled Deadly Ransom, her character is shown holding a lot of powers and abilities throughout the series. To begin, she is aware of every scientific field that includes robotics, computing, chemistry, and time travel. Not only is she into aviation and gadgetry, Dr. Blight was in fact once powered by a compound in the episode titled Tree of Life, where she used sap to make a perfume. It gave her some of the coolest superpowers like superhuman strength, invulnerability, flight, energy blast, super breath, and the ability to become a mobile plant, all of which were powerful enough to fight Captain Planet and even defeat him.
I never thought I'd find myself wishing Captain Planet would show up.
Loot and plunder.
You'll pay for this, Captain.
Dare you forget his most famous dialogue from the show's credits? This recurring eco-villain might have had no significant superpowers, but did that ever stop him from causing destruction? The answer is a big, bold no. This charming businessman strolling around in swanky suits hardly ever gets his hands dirty. In fact, he prefers others to do his dirty work for him, while he watches them from a distance and gains profit.
Oh no, $400 million down the drain?
That's a lot of cash in the trash. We can't...
Plunder's main motive is money, and he is often seen exploiting weakness and corrupting others for his own gains. This means that he never really cared about who or what's getting affected, as long as there's a constant flow of cash in his pockets. This greedy businessman is quite capable of going to extremes, like turning his back on fellow eco-villains to benefit himself. In short, his character just cannot be trusted. Surrounded by an army of brainless minions who are willing to follow him and do his bidding, Plunder is often seen using advanced technology, all credits to a large supply of money and support.
And since you can't pay your bill, I can legally take over your land for further development.
It goes without saying that his power is quite widespread, and his character does have the charisma and resources to get him many followers. His regular sidekick, the bald and outstandingly well-bit Argos Bleak, handles most of his dirty work for him.
One mega mesher at your service, sir.
Having appeared first in the episode titled Last of Her Kind, Plunder's appearance is definitely striking. Often seen wielding a cane, Plunder wears a very flashy pine green suit featuring a tiger print lapel collar, but the highlight of his whole look has to be his shoulder-length brown hair, one that is usually pulled back into a ponytail. All that magnetism makes him quite an intimidating nemesis to the Planeteers, and he's definitely the one to watch out for.
This won't hurt a bit. Darn you!
Zarm. While technically he doesn't fall under the category of an eco-villain, the character of Zarm can easily be regarded as one of the most dangerous crooks to be featured in the whole series. If you are wondering why, well, he is what one would refer to as the spirit of war and destruction. In fact, he epitomizes evil and corruption, along with his abuse of power and hatred. Commonly considered as Gaia's male equivalent, he gives the impression of a middle-aged man boasting tan skin, short but dark hair with lighter streaks, and a pair of light-hued eyes. His athletic, muscular build kind of gives him an edge over Captain Planet. Unlike Gaia, who believes in protecting Earth's life, Zarm is of the opinion that only the strongest are entitled to respect. No points for guessing that his character is absolutely vicious and prone to causing clashes between parties, just to see who is the mightiest among them all.
Defeat Earth itself.
His first appears in the episode titled The Conqueror, where he tries convincing the Planeteers to join him by egging on arguments amongst themselves. This former spirit of the Earth, who was banished by Gaia, commits himself to wreaking havoc in every manner possible.
No more tricks. I only want this. No!
Zarm not only tries to initiate an all-out nuclear war on the planet, but also goes to the extent of degenerating Gaia into some kind of fragile, emaciated old woman, who was no longer capable of preventing the planet from dying. Next, he takes over the planet over a span of 10 years, desiccating and ruining the planet. He even devises a strategy that he calls Scorched Earth, where he claims to have aided every significant tyrant in history. Speaking of his powers and abilities, there was a time when he had power over all eco-villains. Not only can he influence people, but is also quite skilled at taking undue advantage of their ignorance, setting them off against each other. You will be surprised to know that his character can actually assemble an army that traverses the boundaries of space and time from any number of existing futures. From making claims about being the mastermind behind every tyrant on the planet, to having the power of mimicking the appearance and voice of literally any being, he is one hell of a villain to remember.
Watch this. Smart!
Stop, you idiot!
Hey, loosen up!
Sly Sludge. The character of Sly Sludge symbolizes lethargy, ignorance, as well as the dangers of apathy and short-term thinking. His get-rich-quick schemes often give him credibility and make things work in his favor. Once, he even claimed that he had developed a shrink ray that could shrivel any pile of trash, thus figuring out a way to resolve trash disposal problems. But in reality, all he had done was simply dump the trash into a volcano that eventually erupted with toxic magma.
The volcano!
Like many other rogues of Captain Planet, he's often found joining hands with baddies like Hoggish Greedley or Verminous Scum. There was a time when he was granted the privilege to get rid of toxic wastes in the US national parks, but again, there seemed to be a slight twist in the story. Sludge, in reality, had been collaborating with Dr. Blight, whose computer, Mal, had fabricated Sludge's background information to make him look like a dedicated, loyal conservationist, and at the same time put the blame on the Planeteers, making them look like the real polluters. Very sly indeed. When it comes to his appearance, Sly Sludge is short and stout. The patchy black hair on his head gives the impression of either baldness or a side effect, all thanks to the harmful toxic chemicals that he dealt with on a daily basis. You just can't miss out on his signature yellow rubber gloves that had the symbol of NO printed on them. As for clothes, he prefers wearing khaki overalls with his staple black boots. Sly Sludge's sidekicks deserve a mention too. While the first one happens to be the skinny Ooze, donning a vest with blue jeans, the second one is the tall and muscular Tank Flusher III, who acts like a heinous henchman to serve a Machiavellian master.
Granny, this is the guy who hates pollution, right? Yeah? Then we've got a surprise for him.
Blight 5, Future Versions. This future descendant of Dr. Blight appears in the episode titled Future Shock. About 100 years post the series setting, the character of Blight 5 methodically manages to take over the world along with duplicitous scum in Pillage Plunder. She is mostly seen playing leader to the trio. Aided by the still operating Mal, Blight 5 is seen gaining profits by generating products that made humanity endure the unbearable environment in the dystopian future. Her character comes up with new ways of making fish meat hygienic and getting rid of all the toxic sea pollutants in order to sell the meat as a first-class product. But whilst she is rejoicing about the new scheme with her partners, Zarm decides to pay them a visit and warns them that Gaia and the Planeteers' actions will have consequences in their future.
So, rather than cleaning up pollution, it's avoided in the first place?
Exactly.
It goes without saying that they eventually accept his offer and use a time travel device to pay the past a visit and destroy all environment-friendly technology, such as the research labs and green power plants.
I'll settle this for you, fellas.
But, in spite of doing all that to secure her existence, the character of Blight 5 emerges as someone who was 100 times harsher than her previous counterpart. Blight 5 in due course meets her grandmother, along with loot and plunder. However, despite joining hands with them and defeating Captain Planet, they were unsuccessful in preventing the timeline from changing. Blight 5, along with her partners, were ultimately erased from existence, and thank God for that.
End of the timeline, kid.
No!
Knowledge is power.
And the power to make a better world is yours!